You're watching the Ruslan Belov channel, and today we'll discuss the situation in Ukraine as of May 4th, 2025. A lot has happened today, so let's get started. We'll begin with the Dnipro section of the front. Today there is a noticeable increase in the concentration of Russian units on the Kinburn Spit. We may have talked about this topic before, or maybe not, but over the past few days, the Dnipro and Kherson areas have once again become central issues. There are many reports from both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources about a buildup of forces along the river, with the Russian side concentrating its troops here, particularly on the Kinburn Spit, and Ukrainian forces also moving some of their units into the area. It's unclear whether this is preparation for some kind of maneuver or just an attempt to force the opponent to commit more troops here, potentially weakening other sectors. But something is clearly happening. Speaking of the Russian side, we're also seeing a large number of objective control videos showing strikes with glide bombs, FABs, on the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces on the Ukrainian side of the Dnipro River. So it's clear that combat activity in this area is intensifying. This could be tied to upcoming attempts by either side to cross the Dnipro. There's not enough information to draw a definite conclusion yet, but it seems something significant is brewing. Next, we move to the South Donetsk direction. In the sector west of Velika Novosilka, there's increased Russian activity in the triangle formed by Novo Pavlivka, Zeleny Pole, and Novosilka. As a reminder, over the past few days, Russian units have been advancing between the settlements of Privolne, Volne Pole, and Novosilka. These are the kinds of movements and adjustments we've seen on the map over the last several days. Some pro-Russian sources report that the Russian armed forces currently control the entire area around this red line. Today, we also saw objective control footage of strikes on Ukrainian positions in the village of Zeleny Pole. As we can see, this settlement is being hit with FABs, and support points located along the perimeter are also being targeted. There's a very high probability that the Russian army may soon attempt to improve its positions along Route 05-10, which runs between Velika Novosilka, Uspannivka, and further on toward Huliaipol. In the near future, Russia may try to take control of this section of the front. Doing so would allow it to expand its foothold on the Ukrainian side of Route 05-10, enabling a broader front and wider maneuver space for Russian forces to push further northwest. Now we head to the village of Bohhatier. Fighting continues here. We haven't seen any changes over the past day, but increasing objective control footage suggests that Ukrainian forces are being squeezed closer to their main evacuation routes. This, in turn, leads to heavier losses for the Ukrainian armed forces. In this footage, we see a strike on Ukrainian positions in the northwestern part of the village. Strikes are being delivered against buildings and structures located on the main evacuation route from Bohhatier heading north toward Alexeyevka. In this footage, we see how one of these fortified positions was destroyed. This street, Charivna Street, is the main route for evacuation, troop rotation, ammunition delivery, and evacuation of the wounded between Bohhatier and Alexeyevka, and vice versa. We can clearly see that this part of the front, this part of Bohhatier, is now under full fire control by the Russian armed forces. This indicates that Ukraine now has fewer and fewer options for holding on to the village. Still, the fact that Ukrainian units are holding on to the northwestern and northeastern parts shows one thing: they are simply waiting for the order. Ukrainian soldiers on the ground are waiting for an order to retreat. But based on past experience in this part of the front, since the battles for Novo Pavlivka and Vuhledar, it's likely that such an order won't come. Now we move to the Novo Pavlivka section of the front. Over the past day, this area saw the greatest number of geolocated updates and map changes. We can confidently say that the Russian army is indeed trying to reach the border between the Donetsk and Dnipro regions, and it's possible this push is timed ahead of the May holidays. Just a few days remain, and we may see a surge in geolocated updates in the coming days. Let's first look at how the map changed over the last 24 hours. This is what the map looked like by the evening of May 3rd, 2025. By the end of May 4th, we see expanded control in the areas around Kostyantynivka, Nadivka, Preobrazhenka, as well as around Uspannivka, the village of Novo Alexandrovka, and Novoserhivka. Let's go step by step, starting with Kostyantynivka. This area saw the most significant changes on the map. Once again, here's what it looked like on May 3rd, and this is what we're seeing today. Most mappers, without exception, perhaps only excluding some pro-Ukrainian ones, have updated this area in favor of the Russian armed forces. In this footage, we can see Russian assault teams moving in pairs across open fields, setting up specialized equipment to help them cross defensive trenches. After the first pair, another follows at a safe distance, using the installed equipment. Then comes a third pair, followed by a fourth, and overall, the video shows up to 5 pairs of Russian assault troops crossing the fields. They do so without coming under any fire from Ukrainian artillery or drones. Russian soldiers calmly enter the easternmost tree line near the village of Kostyantynivka. Some sources report that fighting is now taking place in the central part of the village. So far, there are no confirmed updates or geolocations, just individual posts and publications, but the assault itself has definitely begun. There is a very high likelihood that in the next 24 to 48 hours, the settlement of Kostyantynivka will come fully under the control of the Russian armed forces. If that happens, only 3 forest belts and 1 ravine, Serebryanka, will remain between the Russian army and the border between the Dnipro and Donetsk regions. Regarding Novo Pavlivka, FAB bombings and artillery strikes were conducted throughout the day to prevent the transfer of reinforcements and reserves toward Kostyantynivka. This area is currently seeing the most intense fighting, as Russian forces aim to reach the regional border. A bit further north-northeast, active fighting continues for the settlements of Novo Alexandropil, Uspenivka, and Novoserhivka. Reports from yesterday and today indicate that the Russian armed forces have managed to take full control of Novo Alexandrovka. Yesterday, this information was shared by individual but generally reliable pro-Russian experts. Today, neutral mapping sources have also confirmed it. Also yesterday, reports emerged suggesting that Russian forces managed to enter the eastern outskirts of Novoserhivka. However, this claim was made without any geolocated footage or confirmations from mappers. But today, a piece of objective control footage was published, which may partially confirm this development. In the footage, we can observe a Ukrainian counterattack, specifically in the eastern part of Novoserhivka. We see an airborne landing, the start of the counterattack, and assault actions. This footage was geolocated to that area, clearly showing that fighting took place on the eastern outskirts. Based on this objective control footage, we updated the map west of Solon, north of Uspenivka, and the eastern part of Novoserhivka. This area includes some scattered streets and small villages. Some sources describe Novoserhivka as a long, stretched-out village. Regardless, progress has been made here as well, aimed solely at reaching the border between the two regions. As for the Pokrovsk sector of the front, there have been no changes to the map. This front remains relatively static. Now we move on to the Kostyantynivka direction, where fighting has once again intensified. There are map updates indicating that Russian forces are gradually cutting off the Klishchivka salient, aiming to reach the southern and southwestern outskirts of the town of Kostyantynivka. Let's break it down, starting from the western flank. Looking at this part of the front, we see a large number of map markers. This indicates that over the past 24 hours, Russian troops have successfully improved their positions. According to various sources and cartographers, the Russian armed forces have advanced along the N32 highway. Yesterday, this information came from several pro-Russian experts. Today, it has been corroborated by some neutral cartographers as well. We can observe that Russian forces are steadily moving along the M32 route, although they have not yet entered Novo Pavlivka. Let me remind you that at the center of this entire area, between the reservoirs, villages, and forested areas, there is a massive stronghold of the Ukrainian armed forces. This stronghold is considered a key defensive position for the entire strategic area. Control over it would allow Russian forces to advance unhindered toward the Klishchivka reservoir. This stronghold is currently the focus of the most intense fighting. A few days ago, Russian forces advanced northward from Toretsk and entered the area of Novo Pavlivka from the southwest and west. Now, they are reportedly assaulting the stronghold from the northeast and north as well. This is where key and decisive combat is taking place. battles that may determine the entire course of the upcoming general engagement, which most likely will unfold along the Pokrovsk-Kostyantynivka arc. Now let's move on to the Klebanbek pocket itself. Today, some sources report that Russian units have already entered the territory of Alexandropil, and assault operations are underway. Ukrainian armed forces currently control only the far eastern part of the settlement. This information was shared mainly by neutral mappers and some pro-Ukrainian mapping services. These Ukrainian sources are now showing a large grey zone in the area. Apparently, they are in no rush to update the map in favor of the Russian side, although most mappers and geolocation analysts confirm that nearly the entire grey zone, still labeled as such by Ukrainian sources, is actually either under Russian control or partially contested. Regarding Alexandropil, some sources state that Russian units have taken control of farms and infrastructure in the area, while the Ukrainian side holds only the eastern part and is trying to stay close to primary withdrawal routes. In the footage, we can see Ukrainian units moving toward the eastern parts, possibly for reinforcement or alternatively for withdrawal. It's hard to say for sure. What's clear is that as soon as Russian forces tried to enter the settlement, they immediately launched drone strikes. Dozens of UAVs now fly over Alexandropil, preventing Ukrainian forces from moving troops into the area. So the situation in Alexandropil is fairly obvious. It's only a matter of time before the Russian Ministry of Defense announces full control, which could very well happen as soon as tomorrow. Next, we move to the settlement of Stara Mykolaiivka. For quite some time, the area south of Stara Mykolaiivka was marked as a grey zone. In fact, about a week ago, the first signs and reports appeared that Russian units had entered the central and southern parts, but these came without geolocated confirmations. Today, the first pieces of objective control footage emerged, showing Ukrainian FPV drone operators targeting Russian assault units as they gradually advance across open fields towards Stara Mykolaiivka. There are many clips and episodes: artillery strikes, drone hits, bomb drops. Everything is being used here. One of these clips, part of a 2-minute-long video, was confirmed to be filmed in this area. Based on this footage, the map has been updated, so now there is actual confirmation that Russian units have entered the southern part of Stara Mykolaiivka, and fighting for control is ongoing. It's unclear whether Russian forces have managed to secure their foothold, but operations are actively underway in this direction. On the eastern flank, both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources confirm advances toward the settlement of Romanivka. However, we are not updating the map yet, as the information about progress in this area came several days ago from the pro-Ukrainian mapping service Deep State. So to summarize, we can clearly see the directions of the Russian advance. From Sukhaya Balka toward Romanivka, from Kalinov toward Stara Mykolaiivka, from Tarasivka toward Zelenopol and Alexandropil, and ongoing fighting over a key stronghold located between the reservoirs. This is a broad front offensive. Let me remind you, this is the first major battle for initiative in the general engagement of 2025, which is expected to unfold along the Pokrovsk-Kostyantynivka arc. In the Toretsk area, the situation remains unchanged. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources published footage from the settlement of Nelipivka, stating in the description that all events in the video took place there. We won't show the video itself due to the presence of graphic content, but there are indirect confirmations suggesting that during a breakthrough a few weeks ago, Russian units managed to take full control of Nelipivka and likely established a foothold there. Ukrainian forces are currently attempting to dislodge them from this bridgehead, but so far, those efforts have been unsuccessful. Now we move to the Siversk sector of the front, where Russian artillery is once again active. It appears that in the coming days, both Russian artillery and aviation will intensify operations here, followed by another ground assault. Latest reports indicate that assault operations are underway in the settlement of Hryhorivka. According to geolocations, Russian forces currently control approximately 10 to 15% of the village and continue to advance westward. Ukrainian forces are deploying reinforcements and reserves in an effort to stabilize the situation. Since the Ukrainian armed forces and their command clearly understand that once Hryhorivka falls, the next target will be Serebryanka, and from there, strikes will begin on the northeastern outskirts of Siversk, which essentially represents the last line of defense before a potential offensive toward the Slovyansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration. Next, we move to the Lyman section of the front. Fighting continues today in the settlement of Torska. It's difficult to say exactly where the front line lies, whether in the northern part of the village or if perhaps half of it is already under Russian control. What's clear is that Russian units are already inside the village, though the precise location of the front line remains uncertain. As for the Lyman salient between the Nitras and Zerabets rivers, the map has changed once again over the past 24 hours. A new geolocated video has confirmed that Russian units have advanced between the settlements of Makievka and Novo Pavlivka. In this footage, we can observe Russian assault troops moving through Ukrainian strongpoints while under attack from Ukrainian drones and artillery. Several parts of the video have been geolocated, confirming that strikes were delivered at this particular position. Based on this, the map has been updated south of that point. Pro-Ukrainian cartographers have also acknowledged a significant expansion of Russian-controlled territory in the area between the Nitras and Zerabets rivers. They confirm that the Russian advance continues northward toward the settlements of Hrikivka, Novyi Mir, and Olhivka. So we can see that the Russian side is not in a hurry to end the southern offensive toward Lyman. Although combat continues in that area, Russian forces appear to be focused mainly on the settlement of Zelenaya Dolini. The apparent priority now is to expand the buffer zone and reach settlements like Hlushkova, Novyi Mir again, Druzhelyubivka, and Hrikivka. The goal seems to be to link up a chain of villages, Kormozinivka, Novodzyany, Hrikivka, and further on to Novyi Mir and Hlushkova. This would form a buffer zone that provides a degree of protection in case of Ukrainian counterattacks from the direction of Borova. It's worth noting that this area currently holds some of Ukraine's more combat-capable units. This buffer would allow the Russian side to maintain their positions, while regular forces continue pushing south toward Lyman. As for the northeastern Kupiansk direction, there have been no significant changes. Several air-dropped bomb strikes were reported over the past 24 hours on the northwestern outskirts of the settlement. Objective control footage confirms this. We can also see ongoing fighting around Kondrashivka, Tishchenkivka, Malashapkivka, and Velika Shapkivka. This is currently one of the main zones of active combat. Russian strikes on the northwestern and northern outskirts of Kupiansk aim to disrupt Ukrainian logistics, rotations, resupply efforts, and troop movements. There is also noteworthy and increased artillery activity by Russian forces along the border between Russia and Ukraine, specifically between Chernihiv and Bryansk regions, and between Sumy and Kursk regions. Some sources have repeatedly pointed out over the last few days that Ukrainian units are concentrating in this area, suggesting that Ukraine might attempt a cross-border operation into Bryansk or Kursk regions during the May holidays. In short, anything is possible over the holidays, and no scenario should be ruled out. And that's all for now, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and all the best to you.